Hello my creative friends. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so please excuse my nasally voice. I thought today I would show you just a couple of things that I did on this card. Instead of making the whole card, I'm going to show you how I use blender pens and my aqua painter to color this image, and also how I made this bow. So to get started, I used the Hostess set Summer Afternoon, this image, and I stamped it using StazOn ink onto Very Vanilla cardstock. You want to use StazOn when you're using your aqua painter or your blender pen, because otherwise the ink could smear, or it probably will smear. To get the colors that I wanted to color on here, I used the Festival of Prints Designer Series paper stack. It's in the holiday mini catalog on page 20. So here it is there. And it's just a fabulous pack of, I believe it's 4.5 by 6.5 sheets of paper, and they're double-sided. Here's a little tip for you that I didn't know when I first started Stampin' Up, but when they have their paper packs, they also have the color indicator to let you know which colors are in there. So for this pack we have Cherry Cobbler, Crumb Cake, Early Espresso, Island Indigo, Lucky Limeade, and Very Vanilla. And that's what I have here. I also added in some basic gray because I needed the tires. I didn't want them to just be black, so that's what I did. You can use any non-porous plasticky type surface for this technique. I'm just using the big clear block. It's kind of dirty, it needs to be washed, and I will wash it after this. But you can always just use a baby wipe to clean up afterwards. What you want to do is just pick a place to start and start with that color. So I'm going to start with Island Indigo, and I'm just going to use the brush tip to add a little bit of ink to my clear block. I often just use an old CD, or you could use the plastic case. You want to make sure that your blender pen is clean, and to do that you just roll it on your paper, and you want to make sure you get all the edges until you don't see any color, and this one is clean. And I like to clean it after each time I use it as well, so that in case I forget when I go the next time to use it, it'll be clean. So you just want to pick up a little bit of ink. If you want it lighter, what I do is I pick up a little bit and then I just draw it out. So I've just got a little bit of ink on there. And I usually start in the darkest place. Wherever there's little hash marks or shadows, that's where it's going to be darkest. So I like to start in those areas. And then when you want more color, you just come back in and pick up a little bit more. You don't want to get this too saturated and wet, because you will make your paper peel, especially if you're using the Very Vanilla or the Whisper White. I think the watercolor paper can hold a little more, but you can go back in the areas that you want darkest. Just go back, pick up a little more of that color, and go into those areas that you want to be darker, and this will give you even more shading. And then when you're done with that color, you just use your blender pen and take it off. These little flowers are really small, and so you want to be careful when you're doing it. I'm not trying to get too much shading, but there are a few that have circles in the middle, and I'm trying not to get into those circles because I'm going to go back and add green to them later. That was Cherry Cobbler, by the way, and this is Lucky Limeade. What I'm doing is kind of going in between the flowers and just adding a little bit of green to the background instead of just trying to get all the stems. You can use this to get the middle, but what's even easier is to take the fine tip end of your Lucky Limeade marker and just use that to fill in the centers. Now to do the basket and to get the tones that I did with the basket, I took crumb cake and I kind of just did an all over light crumb cake on the basket. Went in and added a little bit of darker area. Then I came in with early espresso, and I know you can't see the crumb cake on there, but I just put it like right on top, right next to it. And I'm going to test the color. You can always test the color on a scratch piece of paper there. So first I'm going to go underneath, because it'll be really dark under the basket. And then where there's extra shading, but I do want to do just a line under these flowers because they would give a little shadow. But for the grass, I actually use the Aqua Painter. I like the Aqua Painter, but I find the blender pen to give me a finer tip, so when I need to get into small spaces, the blender pen works better for me. But for large brush strokes, the Aqua Painter works really well. But I don't fill this barrel with water because it gets too saturated for me. What I do instead is I keep this little cup of water. This is actually from Sally Beauty Supply for doing your nails. But any little cup or shot glass would work. And I keep it on my Stampin' Scrub. So if it spills on my Stampin' Scrub. But basically, you just dip your cup in the water, and I use my fingers or a paper towel to just get the excess water off. And I'm going to go back here to my Lucky Limeade. Let me add some more Lucky Limeade for the grass. And I know that I want it to be darker under the tires. I'm just going to kind of brush it up just like they have it here and in the grass areas. And then as I take it down, I'm just going to do broad strokes. So I start on the grass just to make sure that I don't have, I don't want it to be really streaky. And you can add water if it's too dark. That's a nice light. And I try to get it kind of uneven because that's the way grass would look. So that works for me. Get some more. And again, it's going to be darker under the tires and the rabbit. I extend it out as far as I think I'm going to cut it too. That's another little tip. Come in with a few brush strokes. And then very, very, very lightly, now this would be after you were all done, I would add some just behind, so it's not so crispy white, behind the bike. I just kind of go all over, but you want to make sure that your image is dry before you do that. And this is the same thing you would do with the sky. You would just take the Island Indigo instead and get it nice, and I did it really diluted so it'd be really light. And then I start at the very top, which I'll probably even end up cutting off, and then just work my way down. And you can always add a streak here or there. It makes it look kind of like clouds. And there you go. The last thing I would probably do is come in with the Lucky Limeade and just go like this and add kind of little dash lines. So that it looks more like grass instead of just a straight line. But that is how I did my watercoloring. So next up, I'm going to clean this up and I'll show you how I did the bow. On my sample card, I tied the bow on this strip of paper from the Festival of Prints paper stack. But just for the sake of the video, I'm going to show you what I did. The first thing I did is I cut a piece of ribbon just a little bit longer than my paper. This happens to be the Cherry Cobbler scallop dots ribbon. Take a little bit of snail on the back side where you want it to go and adhere it down. If you have trouble lining things up, you can always use your grid mat. But honestly, I tend to just eyeball it. Okay, next thing you're going to do is cut a strip of ribbon about 4 inches, maybe less. We'll see if I need that whole amount. I'm going to fold it one way, fold it the other. You have to decide which way you want your bow to go, whether you want it to show the red or whether you want it to show the dots, the solid or the dots. And I want it to show the solid, so I put a glue dot on the white dot side. I'm just going to fold it in about 1/3 of the way. Then I'm going to take another glue dot on the other side. Again, the dot side, because I'm going to cover that up. And the size of your bow will be determined by where you fold these. And again, because this is a double-sided ribbon, decide whether you want dots showing or the solids showing, and I do want dots showing, so I'm going to put glue dots on the solid side this time. You just wrap it around and adhere it, and there you go. I used another mini glue dot or 2. And put my bow in the middle. And that's how I made the ribbon. So here's the finished cardigan. I hope that this helped you. Maybe you learned something new. Maybe it'll give you some inspiration to try either aqua painting or using your blender pen or making a different style of bow or just getting out into your craft room and creating a little bit. I hope you find some time today to get a little bit creative. Thank you for joining me. Bye.